storyteller behind Noctavelle Audio, a home for emotional storytelling, soft fantasy, and haunting little dreams told in voice. If you enjoy stories that feel like a whisper in the dark, take a moment to subscribe to Noctavelle Audio and turn on notifications. That way, the next quiet story will find you right when you need it. Tonight, we begin with a cafe that should not exist. A warm light at the end of a rainy street. A girl behind the counter who seems to know more than she should. This is part one of the cafe that should not exist. So settle in, dim the lights, and let the rain take you somewhere quiet. The cafe had no name on the door, no sign in the window, and every person Mara asked the next morning swore there was nothing on that corner but an empty wall and old rain. It had been raining for 3 hours when Mara finally stopped walking. She had not meant to walk that far. She had only meant to get some air, to let the cold clear her head, to put a little distance between herself and the apartment that had started to feel too small and too quiet all at once. But the rain had other plans, and so did the street at the end of Van Lane. The cafe sat between a closed pharmacy and a shuttered flower stall, as though it had always been there, and simply chosen tonight to let itself be seen. The windows were fogged from warmth inside. A soft amber light pressed through the glass like a held breath. And from somewhere deep within came the smell of coffee so rich and dark and familiar that Mara felt, for just a moment, like she was walking back into something she had lost a long time ago. She pushed open the door. Inside, the cafe was small and unhurried. 4 wooden tables, 2 chairs each, a counter along the far wall, behind which stood a girl drying a ceramic cup with a cloth, not looking up, as though she had been expecting exactly this. The girl had dark hair pinned loosely at the back of her neck. She wore a plain cream apron, and when she finally looked up, she looked at Mara the way people only look at someone they have known for a long time. Warm, careful, a little sad. "Sit anywhere you like," the girl said. Her voice was low and even, like the sound of rain against a roof when you are already inside. Mara sat at the table closest to the window. She did not know why she chose that one, only that it felt right, the way certain chairs in certain rooms always feel as though they were left empty specifically for you. She watched the rain trace its slow lines down the glass. Outside, the street was empty. No other lights. No footsteps. Just the wet shine of the pavement and the distant sound of the city pretending to sleep. The girl set a cup in front of her without being asked. "How did you know what I take?" Mara asked. The girl tilted her head slightly. "You always take it this way," she said. Mara set her cup down slowly. "We have never met," she said. The girl did not answer. She only looked at Mara with that same careful, unhurried expression. The kind that does not argue. The kind that simply waits. Mara looked back down at her cup. There was something about the silence between them that did not feel uncomfortable. It felt instead like the silence between two people who have already said the hard things and are now resting on the other side of them. She did not understand why she felt that. She only knew that she did. After a while, a second customer came in. A woman, older with a gray coat and wet shoes, who sat down at the far corner table without a word. The girl brought her a cup without asking, the same way she had done for Mara. The woman wrapped her hands around it, closed her eyes, and exhaled slowly, as though she had been holding that breath for a very long time. Mara watched them for a moment. Then she looked at the girl. "Does she come here often?" Mara asked quietly. The girl glanced at the woman, then back at Mara. "She comes when the rain is heavy enough," she said. "They all do." Mara looked around the small room again. The 4 tables, the amber light, the soft sound of rain on glass. She wondered briefly how many other people had found this place. How many other people had walked in out of the rain carrying something they could not put down. She asked the girl her name. The girl smiled just slightly and said, "You can call me Lynn." The name settled into the room like something Mara should have recognized but did not. Mara asked where the cafe was listed, if it had a number, if she could find it again. Lynn only wiped the counter in slow, even strokes and said, "It is easier to find on rainy nights." "That is not really an answer," Mara said. Lynn looked at her. "No," she said, "but it is the truest one I have." Mara stayed for another hour. She did not plan to. But the rain did not let up, and the coffee stayed warm longer than it should have, and there was something about the room that made the idea of leaving feel slightly unreal. When she finally stood to go, Lynn was already at the counter with a small paper bag. She held it out without explanation. "What is this?" Mara asked. "Something for the walk home," Lynn said. "For the part of the night that is still cold." Inside the bag was a single piece of sweet bread, still warm. The kind Mara had not eaten since she was very young. The kind her mother used to leave on the counter for her on school mornings, without a note, without explanation, just quietly there. She looked up at Lynn. Lynn only nodded once, the way you nod at someone when words would cost too much. When Mara stepped back outside, the rain had slowed to almost nothing. The street was quiet. She walked 3 steps, then turned to look back. The windows were still lit. The amber glow still pressed soft against the glass. She took out her phone and searched the address. Nothing. No cafe. No listing. Only a map that showed an empty corner and a street name she was certain she had never heard before tonight. She looked up again. The light in the window caught the rain on the glass, and for just a moment it looked like something was written there. Not words exactly. More like the shape of something she used to know. She stood there for a long time before she made herself walk away. The bread in the paper bag was still warm against her hand, warmer than it should have been. And as she turned the corner, she found herself looking up at the sky, almost expecting the rain to return. She did not know why that thought unsettled her, only that it did. Because something about the cafe did not feel like a place she had discovered. It felt like a place that had found her first. And long after she reached home, long after the door had closed behind her, Mara kept thinking about the girl behind the counter. Not because she had been strange, not because the cafe had no name, but because Lynn had looked at her like someone who already knew a secret Mara had not yet remembered. The bread in the paper bag was still warm against her hand, warmer than it should have been, and long after she reached home, Mara kept thinking about the girl behind the counter, not because she had been strange, but because Lynn had looked at her like someone who already knew a secret Mara had not yet remembered. And that is where we leave Mara tonight, standing at the edge of something she cannot yet name, carrying warmth in her hands and a feeling in her chest she does not yet know how to understand. The rain will return, and with it, the cafe. If this story stayed with you, subscribe to Noctavelle Audio and turn on the notification bell. That way, the next chapter will find you the moment it arrives. And if tonight's story left a quiet ache behind, leave a comment below. Tell me what you are still thinking about. I read every single one. Until then, rest well. And if it rains tonight where you are, maybe leave the window open just a little.